Right, Hertz Car Rental, they will be selling vehicles through Amazon.
Yeah, Hertz is going to be on Amazon, specifically Amazon Autos, online auto marketplace. Hertz, for many, many years, like most used car dealers, or rental car companies, has been selling its used vehicles to dealers as a way of offloading them from the lots.
Amazon just dropped a $20 billion bomb on the car rental industry, and it's absolutely destroying Hertz. Right now, as you're watching this, Hertz is being forced to liquidate 75% of their entire fleet, selling off cars at rock-bottom prices just to survive. We're talking about one of the oldest, most iconic car rental companies in American history, brought to its knees by an online shopping company. But here's what nobody's talking about. This isn't just about rental cars. Amazon's secret move involves something way bigger than vehicles. A deal that could completely change how you get around, forever. And the scariest part? Hertz saw this coming. They had a chance to fight back. They made a massive bet on one specific technology, and it backfired in the worst way possible. So what exactly is Amazon's real endgame here? And why are industry insiders saying this is just the beginning of the bloodbath? In October 2021, Hertz stunned the auto world with a single move, a purchase order for 100,000 Teslas, valued at more than $4 billion. The deal was announced with fanfare, NFL commercials, headlines touting the largest electric vehicle order in history, and a promise to make EVs mainstream for travelers across the country. Stephen Scher, the newly installed CEO, stood behind the decision, pitching it as a bold leap into the future of mobility. But beneath the excitement, the numbers told a much riskier story. Unlike typical fleet deals, there were no volume discounts. Hertz paid nearly full retail price for every single car. While most rental companies negotiate 10 to 30% off for bulk orders, Tesla's surging demand and tight supply meant Hertz got no such break. Each Model 3 cost close to $44,000, with the company committing to a total outlay of $4.2 billion. The purchase was an outright buy, not a lease, putting every dollar of depreciation risk squarely on Hertz's shoulders. There were no price locks, no put options, no phased deliveries tied to market demand. The company was betting its recovery on a single, massive roll of the dice. The order was so large, it outpaced the entire annual EV sales of some automakers. Hertz planned to deploy the cars to airports and urban centers, promising fast chargers in 65 markets by the following year. Renters would even get free supercharger access for a limited time, a sweetener meant to lure them into the electric future. But the contract's fine print offered little protection. Standard Tesla warranties applied, with no extra coverage for the brutal, multi-driver life of a rental car. Maintenance, insurance, and the headaches of commercial use would fall entirely on Hertz. Wall Street cheered the announcement. Hertz's stock price jumped over 10% overnight, and analysts hailed the move as proof the company was back from bankruptcy with a vengeance. But the size and structure of the deal locked Hertz into a commitment that would soon expose deep vulnerabilities, ones that no amount of optimism could paper over. Investors wasted no time reacting to Hertz's headline-grabbing Tesla order. The day after the announcement, Hertz's stock price surged more than 10%, its biggest single-day gain since the company's return from bankruptcy. Trading volume soared as analysts issued glowing reports, describing the deal as a clear signal that Hertz was back and thinking bigger than ever. On Wall Street, optimism spread like wildfire. The boardroom buzzed with talk of market leadership and electrification, and for the first time in years, Hertz's name was being mentioned as a bold innovator rather than a struggling legacy brand. Inside corporate headquarters, the mood was electric. The stock surge didn't just lift share prices, it unlocked a wave of executive bonus pools tied to performance metrics. Compensation decks circulated among senior managers, showing that the Tesla deal had triggered thresholds for multi-million-dollar incentive packages. For Stephen Scher and his leadership team, the promise of outsized rewards added another layer of urgency and excitement. Board members toasted the moment, celebrating the company's ability to outmaneuver rivals and capture the public's imagination. Financial media fanned the flames. Headlines called Hertz's move the most ambitious fleet transformation in decades. Pundits marveled at the scale. 100,000 Teslas, a $4.2 billion commitment, and a plan to electrify a quarter of Hertz's fleet within a year. The narrative was irresistible, an iconic company, fresh out of bankruptcy, making a moonshot bet on the future of transportation. For shareholders, the short-term gains felt like vindication. The stock's rally added hundreds of millions in market value overnight, and the company's leadership found themselves hailed as visionaries. In that moment, the risks seemed distant, buried beneath a wave of enthusiasm and the promise of a new era for Hertz. The first Teslas rolled onto airport lots and city streets, and overnight, Hertz became the hottest name on social media. Travelers lined up for a chance to drive a Model 3, posting selfies with the yellow Hertz key fob and the Tesla touchscreen glowing in the background. TikTok exploded with videos of renters figuring out how to open the door, activate autopilot, or launch the car from 0 to 60 in a flash. One clip of a grandmother test driving a Model Y racked up over 1 million views in a weekend, while Instagram feeds filled with stories tagged #HertzTesla and #ElectricAdventure. Influencers filmed Tesla rental hacks, showing how to maximize supercharger stops or squeeze extra miles out of a single charge. YouTubers staged cross-country challenges, racing from coast to coast in Hertz EVS, documenting every charging stop and hotel lobby breakfast along the way. The Hertz app download rates spiked as people scrambled to reserve their own electric ride for the weekend, hoping to capture a bit of that viral energy for themselves. The buzz wasn't just online. At airport rental counters in Los Angeles, Miami, and New York, lines stretched out the door. Agents fielded endless questions about charging cables and range. Some renters barely cared about the destination. They just wanted to experience an electric car for the first time. Hertz Gamble had become a cultural event, with Teslas turning up at weddings, proms, and even graduation parties. Local news ran feel-good segments about families piling into a rented Model 3 for a road trip, marveling at the silent acceleration and high-tech features. For a brief, shining moment, Hertz was everywhere. The company's bold bet on electrification had captured the public imagination, making it the centerpiece of a national conversation about the future of driving. The hype felt unstoppable, fueled by a sense of novelty and the thrill of being part of something new. No one was talking about risk or depreciation yet, just the excitement of being the first to try what everyone else wanted. Inside Hertz's maintenance bays, the reality of electrification hit fast and hard. Every day, mechanics logged repair tickets for Teslas battered by the relentless pace of airport rentals, curb scrapes, cracked windshields, bent wheels, and collision damage that never seemed to stop. The numbers on the invoices told a story no executive bonus could hide. A single Model 3 might bring in $1,200 per month in rental fees, but repairs and service could swallow twice that before the car even reached its second year. Routine issues ballooned into costly setbacks. Simple fender benders meant waiting weeks for proprietary Tesla parts, with labor rates running $180 per hour at certified shops. Even minor battery or sensor troubles demanded specialized diagnostics, and every extra day off the lot meant lost revenue. For the maintenance teams, the math was brutal. A replacement bumper could cost $2,000, while a cracked touchscreen might run $1,500, expenses that dwarfed the monthly income from each car. The abuse cycle was relentless. Some vehicles saw hundreds of drivers in a year, each one unfamiliar with the quirks of regenerative braking or the risks of instant torque. Accidents piled up, and so did the bills. Service managers flagged cases where a single car's annual repairs topped $10,000, more than the car itself might fetch at auction. For every Model 3 that rolled out of the shop, another limped in, flashing warning lights and error codes. Unlike gasoline sedans, EVs required specialized attention. Hertz's mechanics scrambled to keep up, sometimes forced to send cars to outside service centers that charged double the rates for standard repairs. Meanwhile, Tesla's standard warranty excluded commercial use wear and tear, leaving Hertz to absorb nearly every cost. The company's own data showed repair expenses for EVs running at least twice those of their gasoline fleet. It wasn't just a cash bleed, it was a flood, with no sign of relief as the repair backlog grew and more Teslas sat idle, waiting for parts. The economics of electrification, once a boardroom dream, were now a daily crisis in the garages, eating away at every dollar the company hoped to save. Buried in the excitement over Hertz's Tesla order was a detail that would haunt the company: the fine print of the warranty. On paper, every Model 3 and Model Y came with the same 4-year, 50,000-mile coverage offered to any retail buyer. But Hertz wasn't a typical customer, and their cars weren't living typical lives. The warranty's exclusions told a different story, one written for private owners, not for vehicles shuttled between airports, hammered by hundreds of drivers, and subjected to the daily chaos of rental life. The commercial use clause sat in black and white. Damage from rental activity, excessive wear, and the kind of abuse common in fleet operations simply weren't covered. That meant when a battery pack failed after a year of hard driving, or when a suspension gave out from endless curb strikes, Hertz was on the hook for the repair. Tesla's own service centers, already stretched thin, charged full retail rates for parts and labor. No fleet discounts, no priority scheduling, and no exceptions for volume. Legal teams inside Hertz flagged the risk early. They pored over warranty language, looking for loopholes or leverage. But the exclusions were airtight. The company's own lawyers warned executives that even routine failures, cracked screens, broken sensors, drive unit issues, could fall outside coverage if Tesla determined the damage was linked to rental use. Each denied claim added to the mounting repair bills, and disputes with Tesla's warranty department often dragged on for weeks, with cars sidelined and revenue lost. Insurance, meant to be a safety net, offered little relief. Premiums surged as claims piled up, and adjusters scrutinized every repair, searching for reasons to deny coverage under the same commercial use logic. Hertz found itself squeezed from both sides, repair costs rising, warranty support shrinking, and no way to shift the burden. The legal trap was set. With every denied claim and every uncovered repair, the case for holding on to the fleet grew weaker. Liquidation, once unthinkable, became the only viable option left on the table. On a cold morning in early January 2024, an internal memo landed in the inboxes of Hertz executives. The subject line was blunt: immediate EV fleet reduction 20,000 units. Jeff Adams, executive vice president overseeing Hertz car sales, had spent weeks combing through grim spreadsheets and auction forecasts. The numbers were undeniable. Every day, a Tesla sat idle, its value dropped by hundreds of dollars. Auction bids for late-model EVs had cratered. Some Model 3s, bought for more than $44,000 just 2 years earlier, were now fetching offers as low as $18,000. The math was merciless. Repair costs, insurance claims, and accelerating depreciation had outstripped rental revenue by a wide margin. The decision Adams now faced was not about salvaging profits, but about stopping the bleeding before it became fatal. That morning, Adams convened a call with Hertz's finance and fleet teams. The verdict was unanimous. The only way forward was to liquidate a massive portion of the electric fleet, primarily Teslas, with some Polestars and Bolts mixed in. The order: sell at least 20,000 EVs, starting immediately. The plan called for a nationwide fire sale, pushing cars through Hertz car sales lots, wholesale auctions, and even direct-to-renter offers. There would be no waiting for the market to recover. Adams's team drafted a public statement, framing the move as a strategic fleet realignment. But inside the company, everyone knew it was a last-ditch effort to stave off deeper losses. The timing could not have been worse. Used EV prices had already fallen nearly 30% year over year, and Tesla's repeated new car price cuts had set a new, punishing floor for resale values. Each car sold below book value means another hit to the balance sheet. By the end of January, Hertz had listed thousands of Teslas at rock-bottom prices, some with fewer than 25,000 miles, all bundled with a 12-month warranty and a desperate promise of no hidden fees. The fire sale was underway, and for Adams, the hope was simple. Move inventory fast enough to keep the company afloat, even if it meant booking a $245 million loss in one quarter alone. The crisis had forced Hertz into a corner, and the liquidation order was the clearest sign yet that the company's electrification gamble had turned into a financial nightmare. Maria Lopez, Hertz's vice president of accounting, stepped into the quarterly earnings call with a single number that silenced the room: $588 million. That was the amount Hertz had to write down on its EV fleet in just one quarter. That figure was so large it erased nearly every gain from the company's electrification push. The losses weren't theoretical. They showed up line by line on balance sheets, draining cash reserves and forcing leadership to reconsider every plan they'd made since the Tesla order was signed. The mechanics of the collapse were brutal in their simplicity. Each Tesla, originally purchased for up to $55,000, now sold for as little as $25,000, sometimes even less at auction. That meant a single car could lose over half its value before hitting 40,000 miles. Depreciation wasn't a slow leak, it was a monthly hemorrhage. On average, each EV bled $422 in value every month, outpacing rental revenue and leaving the company with a fleet of assets that looked more like liabilities. Lopez explained that the write-down wasn't just a paper loss. It meant Hertz had to adjust its books, slashing the value of thousands of cars and booking hundreds of millions in immediate expenses. The cash impact was swift. With every vehicle sold below book value, more capital vanished from the company's accounts. Investors who once cheered the Tesla order now watched as the company's liquidity shrank, forcing hard questions about how much longer Hertz could sustain the damage. The accounting shock rippled outward, setting off alarms among lenders and making it clear that the consequences of the electrification gamble would be felt for years to come. Banks wasted no time recalibrating their risk. As the used EV market flooded with thousands of low-mileage Teslas and Polestars, lenders quietly stiffened their standards. Underwriting teams circulated memos flagging ex-rental electric vehicles as high-risk collateral. The numbers told a cautionary tale. Cars that once cost $44,000 now fetched barely $25,000, sometimes less. Resale values could drop by 30% in a single year. The old rules, 10% down, competitive rates, suddenly looked reckless. Linda Chen, a software engineer in Atlanta, thought she'd scored the deal of a lifetime. A 2022 Model 3 with under 30,000 miles, listed for $22,500 on Hertz's website. But when she applied for a loan, her credit union balked. The down payment quote came back at 40%, nearly $9,000 upfront. Interest rates, once hovering near 5% for used cars, jumped to nearly 9%. The loan officer explained, almost apologetically, that the rapid depreciation of ex-rental EVs left banks exposed. If Linda defaulted, the car's auction value might not even cover half the loan balance. Gap insurance wasn't just suggested, it was practically mandatory. Stories like Linda's played out across the country. Buyers drawn in by bargain prices found themselves squeezed by stricter terms. Some walked away, unable to bridge the gap between sticker shock and lender caution. Others pressed on, lured by the promise of a cheap Tesla, but haunted by the risk of instant negative equity. The ripple spread As more X-rental EVs hit the market, traditional lending models buckled. What started as a corporate write-down now reached deep into the wallets of everyday drivers, forcing a hard new reality on anyone hoping to capitalize on Hertz's fire sale. Across Ohio, a man named Eric thought he'd found the deal of a lifetime. A 2023 Tesla Model 3 with just 20,000 miles, listed for $21,500 through Hertz's liquidation program. He'd always dreamed of owning an electric car, but figured it was out of reach until the fire sale changed everything. The paperwork moved quickly. Eric put down his savings, signed a loan, and drove off the lot with a grin. For a few weeks, he was the envy of his neighborhood. Friends stopped by to see the touchscreen, the silent acceleration, the future parked in his driveway. But the excitement didn't last. 3 months later, Eric checked the resale value out of curiosity. Online listings for nearly identical cars had dropped below $18,000. His loan balance, after taxes and fees, was still over $28,000. In less than a season, Eric was more than $10,000 underwater, owing far more than the car was worth. He called his lender, hoping for options, but the answer was blunt. Negative equity wasn't their problem. If he needed to sell or trade in, he'd have to pay the difference out of pocket. Gap insurance, which he'd skipped to save a few bucks, now loomed like a missed lifeline. Eric's story echoed in forums and Facebook groups nationwide. Buyers lured by low prices found themselves trapped by a market in free fall. Some tried to refinance, only to be denied. Others watched as insurance premiums crept up, reflecting the risk of instant loss. The promise of affordable EV ownership turned, almost overnight, into a cautionary tale. For every winner who snagged a cheap Tesla, there were others left stranded, dreams dented, wallets lighter, and no easy way out. The fallout from Hertz's liquidation wasn't just a corporate accounting problem. It landed squarely in the driveways and bank accounts of everyday people, forcing a hard reckoning about the true cost of buying at the bottom. Ravi Patel sits at the heart of Amazon's automotive ambitions, leading a team that treats car buying like a data science experiment. With more than 200 million prime profiles at his fingertips, he doesn't just see customers, he sees patterns, preferences, and opportunities hiding in every search and swipe. Amazon's algorithms quietly track every click, building a living map of demand that stretches across cities, suburbs, and even rural backroads. They know who's searching for a used SUV in Houston, who's eyeing a hybrid in Seattle, and who's ready to buy a truck in Dallas before the first dealership ad even hits their inbox. Prime data is the engine that powers Amazon's push into car sales. Instead of relying on old-school sales pitches or showroom foot traffic, the company predicts what people want before they want it. When Amazon Autos launched in 12 states, the team bypassed traditional franchise models, partnering directly with manufacturers and large fleet operators. The result? Shoppers could browse thousands of vehicles online, lock in financing, and schedule a pickup, all without ever stepping inside a dealership. For Amazon, it wasn't just about moving metal. Every transaction added another layer to the company's vast customer profiles, feeding a feedback loop that made their predictions sharper with every sale. In the background, Patel's team fine-tuned their models, adjusting inventory in real time as trends shifted. A spike in searches for electric crossovers in Los Angeles? More EVs flowed to regional hubs. A sudden drop in demand for sedans in Chicago? The system rerouted inventory before prices could slip. For fleet partners like Hertz, the promise was clear. Tap into Amazon's unmatched reach and precision, or risk getting left behind. The foundation was now set for a new kind of car ownership, one where the subscription model wasn't just possible, but inevitable. Ravi Patel's team at Amazon didn't just want to sell cars, they wanted to rewrite the rules of car ownership. In early 2026, Amazon Autos rolled out a subscription plan that sent shockwaves through the industry. $299 per month, all in, for a late-model used car. No haggling, no hidden fees, no trips to the dealership. For less than the average monthly payment on a new car loan, subscribers got maintenance, roadside assistance, and the freedom to swap vehicles every year. The numbers left traditional dealers reeling. The typical cost of owning a car in America, loan payments, insurance, maintenance, taxes, added up to $9,282 per year. Amazon's offer undercut that by thousands, and the convenience factor was impossible to match. Suddenly, the old way of buying or leasing a car seemed slow, expensive, and out of touch. Dealerships, already struggling with shrinking foot traffic, braced for the worst. Over 2,400 closed their doors within 18 months, unable to compete with a service that let people shop, subscribe, and drive, all with a few taps on their phone. But the launch wasn't smooth. Integrating thousands of rental vehicles from partners like Hertz triggered a wave of algorithmic chaos. Amazon's pricing models, built for electronics and books, struggled with the quirks of used car values. For weeks, some subscribers scored luxury SUVs for the price of a compact sedan, while others waited months for promised deliveries. The glitches cost Amazon $180 million in mispricing losses before the data teams could patch the system. Frustration boiled over in customer forums, and rivals pounced on stories of missed pickups and delayed refunds. Still, the scale was undeniable. With every new subscriber, Amazon collected another layer of driving data, sharpening its predictions and refining its offers. The shock wasn't just in the price. It was in the realization that the dealership model, once seen as untouchable, could be toppled by a company that started out selling books online. The auction floor buzzed like a trading pit on the brink of collapse. Rows of Teslas, still gleaming from their last rental, lined up in endless procession, 20,000 strong, each tagged and waiting to be claimed. The numbers flashed on digital boards. Model 3s and Ys, once prized at $44,000 or more, now drawing bids that barely cleared $24,000. Auctioneers rattled through lots at breakneck speed, their voices rising over a crowd hungry for bargains and wary of catching a falling knife. Dealers from across the country jostled for position, phones pressed to their ears as they tried to lock in cars for less than half their original price. Some buyers grinned, convinced they'd scored the deal of a lifetime. Others hesitated, watching as the resale floor dropped lower with every hammer strike. The spectacle was relentless, hour after hour. Another fleet of EVs sold at prices that would have seemed impossible just months before. Jeff Adams stood at the edge of the chaos, his arms folded, eyes fixed on the numbers. As executive vice president for Hertz car sales, he'd seen plenty of auctions, but nothing like this. "We're moving iron," he muttered to a colleague, "but every car out that door is a lesson learned the hard way." By midday, the tally was staggering. Thousands of Teslas gone, each sale carving another chunk out of Hertz's balance sheet. The pace never let up. Bidders snapped up cars with 20,000 miles for less than the cost of a new compact. The auctioneer's gavel fell again and again, echoing the finality of a bet gone wrong. In a matter of days, Hertz's grand experiment in electrification had been reduced to a clearance event, a fire sale for the ages, and a public reckoning for a century-old brand that had flown too close to the sun. Right now, how we buy, rent, and even think about cars is being rewritten, not by automakers, but by tech giants hungry for your data. As Amazon turns driving into a subscription and dealerships disappear, your next car may be chosen by an algorithm, not a salesman. The real disruption isn't on the lot, it's in your daily life. Let me know in the comments. Would you trust Amazon with your next ride?